It's Spoilerin time, folks. This is the show where we discuss the shows we've been watching and get spoilery, hence the name. Thankfully, because of our other show, Cordkillers, we have a wealth of shows to watch. And this week, we're going to discuss episode 5 of season 1 of Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, the first 2 episodes of Bodyguard from the BBC, as we have seen on Netflix, and episode 5 of season 3 of The Good Place. I'm Tom Merritt, and joining me is my best TV buddy, Brian Brushwood.
Oh, not just TV, also movies and streaming services as well. And arch rival and nemesis of the winter movie draft. All right, man, here's my big question. I guess we've had a recent release. Johnny English made exactly
$1.7 million if you round 1.638 up to 1.7.
You can't even give yourself that rounding mistake. I mean, you could call it 2 million if you're rounding by millions, maybe.
Hey, I'm just saying, I'm number 3.
So here's what I'm curious about is my hopes with A Star is Born. I mean, it did fine for the price I paid, but if I want to have even a glimmer of a chance of pulling this thing off, it's got to be one of those quiet moneymakers in the background. And let me see what it did.
I mean, here's the thing. For a movie that came out October 5th, 148 million, you'd say, yeah, it's probably going to sputter out around 150 something. But this is a movie with Oscar buzz. It's a movie I still see people making memes of and talking about. So it not only might continue to make money, it might actually rev back up as we get closer to the end of the year.
It's making $2 million per weekday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then $4 million and $6 million over the weekend. So that's pretty good. If it could keep that trajectory, I think something like Venom is going to fall off here. Well, I'll take a look at what Venom's doing.
Yeah, because I look at A Star is Born and I see that momentum carrying, and I'm thinking that can't happen for Johnny English Strikes Again. Oh well.
So the daily is on Venom, although it's a fresher release, which affects it as well. Hold on, it's loading up now.
A fresher release. It's the same. It came out the same weekend as A Star is Born.
Oh, it did? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Meanwhile, Venom is doing $1.5 million per weekday, and it did 3 million, 4 million, and 3 million over the weekend. So so Venom is running out of steam, but A Star is Born, if it keeps on chugging away, and if it gets, again, the game was won a few years ago when Lincoln got those 8 Oscars. That was an amazing thing to watch. We'll see if there's any chance of that.
So the thing that I was about to say was, and A Star is Born is not the kind of thing that has natural competitors at the box office. Until I looked and saw that 2 music-based movies are coming out this weekend. The Nutcracker and the Four Realms and Bohemian Rhapsody, which is the story of Queen.
What a wild card that Bohemian Rhapsody is going to be. That'll either be a pop cultural phenomenon or nothing.
Rotten Tomatoes reviews not loving it.
The Nutcracker is not just a musical; it is the
Nutcracker
you mean the movie.
in the Four Realms. I don't think is a musical.
Has any music?
It's not a musical, but it's based on the Nutcracker. So it's. I was saying like, it's got a music take on it, right?
Yeah.
If you're like, I want to see a movie that has something to do with music,
got a musical
the Nutcracker
pedigree.
and the Four Realms.
Yeah.
I was saying Rotten Tomatoes is not giving Bohemian Rhapsody high marks.
That's a bummer.
And a lot of the criticism has to do with the fact that Brian May really was in charge of the story, and so they don't feel they told Freddie Mercury's story very well, the critics who don't like it. So you may love it. You may say, I don't care if they told Freddie Mercury's story particularly well. I just want to see a rockin' out Queen movie, and it will supposedly fulfill you on that side.
I want to say that it was in a Howard Stern interview, and I'm passing this on secondhand from Justin Robert Young, who told me about it. But basically, I think at some point, Sacha Baron Cohen was tapped to play Freddie Mercury, and the reason he walked away from the role was because, he went into the pitch meetings and was there with Queen, and then he says, and then finally, Freddie Mercury dies. And then Queen says, then what happens? And you're like, what do you mean? He's like, well, then, the real story about how Queen went on to be just super great without Freddie Mercury, and they didn't really need him at all. And and that was the moment he realized that he didn't want to do the project. Is the story I heard. Interesting.
Yeah. Well, that's coming out. That's your movie this weekend, and Nutcracker is Team Cordkillers movie. That's Christy and Malengo. I hope that people don't go to the movies this weekend because they'll want to go November 9th. Because I have all 3 movies November 9th. So if you're going to go one weekend to the movies this year, it's got to be November 9th.
You know what? I'm so sorry to say this, but we just instituted a family-wide policy that November 9th is not a good weekend to see movies, no matter what's
and that's
playing.
why my advertising campaign, Don't Be Like the Brushwoods, has come out.
They turn into political attack ads.
Brian Brushwood won't let his family go to the movies on November 9th. Why is he scared? By the way, I have seen Dr. Seuss' The Grinch.
Is it?
Which is coming out November 9th.
I was going to ask, is it good? But you're almost certainly going to tell me that you're not allowed to say what you think.
That is correct.
Okay. Well, I'm a fan of Scott Mosier, and I hope that he made a good movie.
Oh, wait, I can tell this. Hold on. Tom, do you like Benedict Cumberbatch films?
Well, yeah, I do. Okay.
Like all of them, universally?
Not every single one, no.
Oh, but are there in that you? Can you think of a single Benedict Cumberbatch film that really disappointed you?
Like in the Doctor Strange era, is that
like in the last? I don't know. Let's say 3 years. We're just speaking in generalities about a set of movies.
Just in general, like no, not every movie he's made lived up to my expectations.
Oh,
okay. You heard it first.
Tom hates
Dr.
Infinity
Strange.
Wars.
Doctor Strange sucked. That script. No.
By the way, that's a trick that psychologists
really did love Doctor Strange. In case you didn't realize, that was a joke.
That is a trick that psychologists will use to figure out, to get people to answer honestly questions that they wouldn't otherwise answer honestly. Like, let's say it gives you a menu of like 10 sexual activities, and they're like, "What is the number of these you have done?" And then they just give enough versions of that by answering honestly with numbers, they're like, okay, we now know exactly which of these you've done.
You have
which
done
of these you've done.
the Doctor Strange.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's talk about The Good Place. I was disappointed by this episode for an unfair reason. I didn't get around to it until a little later after it broadcast, and I had seen a headline that said, The Good Place goes to a really great, move this week. I think it was talking about last week, but I thought it was talking about this episode. And while this episode was fine, it didn't really change the game for me.
It did sort of call a quest. We are not resetting the universe. We're keeping them alive. They are on a quest to not just become more moral themselves, but to, with their limited time on Earth, get other people to become more moral. That's a good way to add complexity to everything. I like the limitations on Janet's powers in that, she can't do her thing and she's wrestling with that. Yeah. And I especially liked the way they were able to manifest, the playground aspect. It's like, okay, if they're in the real world, how do we do the thing that we do on The Good Place, which is anything we want? And like, oh, well, what we do is we have Janet, who knows everything, create a gizmo Jeep Drop to make remember we talked about I couldn't wait for virtual realities and all that stuff. Like, it exactly started happening. And I would love to see more of that simulation type stuff in there. Also, I did enjoy Eleanor messing with Chidi in the simulation as well. That was fun.
Yeah, no, it was a fine episode. It felt when I reflected on it as if this was an hour-long episode that began last week. Right?
Yes.
Like, this is you have to have this as a follow-on to last week, where they started to be like, well, maybe we should just do good things since we have nothing to lose.
Dude,
which is the opposite of what, the common sense says. And so this week was showing you like, no, they really did. This is them attempting to do the good things, and they're not always perfect, but this is them trying.
We've heard the name before, but is this the first time we met Donkey Doug? And
I think so.
Especially with the context of finding out
or anything.
that he's Jason's dad, and of course the two of them act exactly the same. It's I really enjoyed that in a weird way.
Yeah. Though it was the richest Jason experience we've had because everything else has been brief flashbacks, and now we got to live in Jason's version of Jacksonville, Florida.
Yeah, when they land in Randy Macho Man Savage non-international airport. Justin is very particular about the Florida man humor that he appreciates, and I haven't really poked him on how he feels like the Florida man humor in the show lands.
Yeah. Yeah, because this is definitely trying to be the lighter Florida man humor. But yeah, I don't know if that makes a difference or not.
Apparently we saw Donkey Dog in the season 3 premiere.
We did.
The dance group.
Of course.
He quit.
Okay.
It's so much better knowing it's his dad.
That's awesome.
So what do you think about the end of this episode? Because going into like a Jason episode makes you think, okay, everyone's going to have a character episode.
Yeah.
And then we're going to do something else. How do you guys feel about that?
I'm okay with it. I mean, what else are you going to do while they're all still alive? They got to do something until like a meteor strikes and, or maybe a city blows up or whatever. I mean, we're going to have a change of venue and all the rules will be different for this next thing. To be honest, I think they're all going to stay alive. I think we're going to do some character exploration for each of them. And then there'll be some disaster somewhere that is so relevant that the judge gives them a pardon and they're allowed to have their powers, or we need to get you back to fix something, or
yeah, and again, I love that they always subvert my expectations. So I keep trying to stay ahead of them, which is probably dooming my enjoyment of the show at some point. But my expectation is them doing these good works is going to try to overcome the fact that no matter what, they're supposed to go to the bad place. And that's going to help to a certain extent, but won't get them into the good place. And so maybe they end up in
can I make a
purgatory or something like that.
Can I make a sideways thing? Because they introduced this whole theme of like maybe the whole system is wrong, and then maybe that the end of this season is, holy crap, Michael, you were right. The mere fact of how much better they've gotten has broken the afterlife. Now we have to fix the afterlife. And it's no longer about whether or not they go to the good place or the bad place. It's about the metaphysical alien drama that we're watching.
Yeah, it would be kind of fun if they let Michael reset the timeline to their original deaths, but bring them to a place that isn't the good place or the bad place, to let them prove one last time that they really are good people.
I don't think we ever see a single reset. I don't think we see a single permanent reset again. I guess
you wouldn't even have to do the reset. You could just have them die, like you say, in a meteor crash or something.
Right.
And then say, okay, Michael, well, they can't go to the good place or the bad place, so you have to fix the afterlife with them.
Or maybe they design the afterlife. Maybe they die, or maybe the afterlife breaks, and then it's like, look, you broke it. You guys have to design it. So now it's a whole season about, so
it's like Michael and Janet and the foursome trying to
design it, and you see all their failed experiments, just like, and then Michael's there like, see, told you it's harder than it looks. And,
yeah. All right, shall we move on to the Bodyguard then?
Absolutely, man.
Nope. We're going to move on to Bodyguard. That was a trick question.
Oh, busted. And
I will always
judge you.
So these first two episodes are the twistiest of them, as these kind of series usually are. Did you? It seems like you're really enjoying it because you made Bonnie watch it again.
I watched it again.
Well, you watched it again with her. Bonnie. Yeah.
But man, oh man, they do great suspense on this. The opening scene was fantastic, subverting your expectations. They do a great job of his constant vigilance fueled by his PTSD. We talked briefly about the gender roles, and they don't make a big deal about it, but it's neat to say like, wow, why is it so I don't want to say sexually charged, because there's no overt sexuality to any of it, but it's there is tension. Mm-hmm. There is tension, and you're always seeing mixed genders. So as a result, maybe it short circuits something, and I perceive it as unrecognized sexual tension, even though that's not what it is. Like, I'm feeling tension and I'm seeing a male and female character or whatever. I don't know.
But at the end of the second episode, you do get some release of sexual tension. So that's one of the things I like about this series. It's always keeping you guessing. Like, is that sexual tension? No. Well, then this probably isn't. Oh, wait, that one is. Okay.
Right.
And it's doing that with his motivations, right? At first you think, oh, he's Liam Neeson. He's the guy who saves people from the terrorists. And then it turns out, oh no, that was just lucky. He's not actually at that level. And in fact, people doubt his fitness because they're hiding his PTSD. He's very angry about Afghanistan. Is he going to actually guard this woman, or is he the worst security vulnerability she ever faced?
Well, and plus also it's like he's so broken and bad at his own personal relationship, you know, and yet unbelievably professional and precise.
Yeah.
And like there's almost this relief you feel when he's back in uniform and guarding a body, like every moment outside of that.
How many people I've heard so many people in my life say, yeah, I only feel like myself when I'm at work.
Yeah.
Because then I can put everything else aside.
Well, and you feel that release. I liked seeing the angel from season 1 of Preacher. It's great. It's a great show. And the end of the second episode is the one that ends with that really confusing moment where it's like he had sex. They had the traumatic event, the assassination attempt. In those situations, it's not unusual to be hyper emotional. And, you know, there's a reason that in bad, terrifying times, people often turn to make love with each other. And we see that happening. And then we have this reminder of how serious this blood oath is with his former squad mate, to the tune of him blowing his head off in front of him. And his last dying wish is like, see it through. And then you think like, oh, wait. I mean, I assume that's not a joke, and I'm left with, but then there's also that the two rooms and that moment of like, they both know that door is going to open and it's going to go somewhere. And then you hear him say, you know, my job's I'm going to do what I always do, which is protect you. And it's like, I don't know if I believe you or believe any of this. This is really weird.
And they've given you enough doubt about him that it's easy to say, I also don't know if you know whether you which side you're on yet. Like,
right.
You're so torn apart. One moment to the next, he may be, I should just kill her. I could never kill her. That's a good, you know what I mean? Like, he could be swinging all inside of his own head.
Yeah. Well, and I also like that they like just the range they show from her cold, calculating, Frank Underwood-esque power position to the horrified under sniper fire, and of course the bitter irony of her saying like coming to understand what it's like to be sent into a war zone and not be given backup, and to figure out what that feels like, you know. So It's like, oh, is she evolving and starting to see things the way he saw, or is this just another chapter in the Game of Thrones that she's playing? I don't know. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think the subtext and the ambiguity on when and how much he is going to work against her is really strong, right? The idea of like, you know, she's using a very like she's using terrorism as like her I don't know, rallying cry for all of her political motivations.
Right.
Meanwhile,
she's actively stoking fear so that she can use it as a ladder to escalate her own career.
Right. But the closest terrorist is the man who is always right next to her. We don't know when he decides, or maybe we do. I'm not finished with the season either, but there's not like I'm doing this moment. I mean, I guess maybe him.
Well, there's certainly not I will never ever do this moment in the first two episodes. Right. And so you're left with a very confused and
especially fudge. The thing I want to talk about
is next episode?
Third episode.
I'll watch all the rest of them by next week.
Yeah,
we'll talk about the whole rest of it. Okay. In fact,
you mentioned Game of Thrones too. I found it amusing that Tom Brooke, who played Andy Abstead, is Lothar Frey. And of course, Richard Madden is Robb Stark.
Oh, that's amazing.
So there was a little Red Wedding.
That's
reunion
awesome.
There.
Yeah.
That's great.
Very good.
Yeah. Imagine if Lothar would have done the same thing that Andy Epps did. The whole story would have been different. All right. So should we move on then?
Yes, indeed. To
Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, episode 5. I liked the one thing I definitely like is the symmetry of Dirk and him being in the forest now, and the assassin is now in the city. They've swapped places.
I did notice that is clever, and we also get that moment on the assassin side of things. We get just enough to find her almost endearing, and then we get a reminder that she's a cold-blooded killer, and all she does is want to murder Dirk Gently for whatever reason. I do like that Frodo Baggins was put in that position where it's like, hey man, just admit it, you're friends, and it's like, you get to this that place. I did like the exploring, by using the word psychic, something that we, the viewer, knew was a dead end, but because we knew it was a dead end from the beginning, it was fun to give us an opportunity to hear Dirk Gently express whatever it is he's got in his own words, specifically that he is always, his intuitions do not benefit him in any way, and that's why he is trying to help other people. Star of the show, man, was the whole getting real progress on finding out the Rowdy 3, and getting
all 4 of them.
Yeah, exactly. Getting the story on that, and also finding out a little bit more about the military groups that created them. And I'm glad that we got flat answers to stuff, and now we're opening up more interesting questions. I like that they set up the dynamic of the Rowdy 3. What is painful and unpleasant for Dirk Gently is a real medicinal benefit to Frodo's sister,
Amanda.
Yeah.
No, I loved Amanda in the van. Like, it's like, oh, she's a rock and roll girl. She's on tour with the band. This is how she, proves herself to be worthy of hanging in the van. It definitely was that vibe. And then that paired with Todd admitting to Dirk that he never had the malady. He just knew it ran in his family, and so he used it to get money. And again, when you talk about giving answers to bring up more interesting questions, I love the way Dirk Gently handled that, which is like, okay, but you're still my friend, and you can beat yourself up all as you want about the horrible thing you did. I'm not going to pretend like it wasn't horrible, but I still calling you friend. So that means there's something redeemable in you. So stop insulting my friend.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it's funny because Bonnie will sometimes engage in self-deprecating comments on herself, and I will, with real indignance, say, "Hey, don't talk about my girl that way." It's like you're doing that to me. Don't do that. I like that the show's showing some teeth. I'm glad that we're seeing real characters in real peril. I did really dig the surreality of I don't remember her name, but the private investigator who's trying to find the rich daughter, and she
Farrah Black.
Farrah just comes upon sheer insanity in that moment, including the girl barking, which I guess now we understand with the body swap thing and all that stuff. The discovery of the 35 bodies and all this stuff. Really excited to, I hope, see things speed up now.
Yeah, likewise. Well, folks, thank you so much for hanging out with us and talking shows with us. It's why we do it. It's why we enjoy it. And I hope you keep watching and keep supporting the show at patreon.com/Cordkillers. We'll spoil you again next time.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.